and thanks for joining us for WNY News Now election coverage as we continue to bring you local candidates running for office. Joining us today is Braiden McElhaney from Westfield, who's running for New York's 58th Senate District, the former 57th Senate District, Democrat on the ticket running against Senator George Borrello. Braiden, thank you very much for coming into our Jamestown studio today to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first, I want to give you a chance to talk with potential voters and our viewers. Tell us who you are and why you're running for state senate.
Sure, that's a typical question. Who are you and why are you running? So again, I'm Braiden McElhaney. I am running for the newly 58th Senate District. I graduated from Westfield Academy and Central School. I'm born and raised in Westfield, and I currently serve as an online student at SUNY JCC, as well as at Southern New Hampshire University in the fields of political science and education. I formerly served as a school board candidate in Westfield, New York. I wasn't able to gain a seat, but we were able to spread a message that resonated with the community to this day. And we were also able to gain both Democratic and Republican support throughout that race. I also currently serve as the chairman of the Westfield Community Engagement Collaborative, which essentially is a community organization that helps strengthen the partnership between community members and local institutions, specifically that of the police department. Our goal is essentially to strengthen community policing, help introduce the community to their institutions, holding community events to bring those institutions to the public, as well as just essentially improving the quality of life in Westfield.
Oh, that's great. And I know there's so much that's on the ballot come November. This is a big election nationwide with the midterms. And I know that here in New York State, with the gubernatorial election, we're expecting to see a lot of people coming out.
Absolutely.
For you, it seems like you're pretty new to politics. You're a student right now.
Right.
What are some of your motivations behind running for office? Is there anything that you really want to try to take with you as you go to petition?
That's a very good question. My passion for this area is probably my biggest strength when seeking public service. You know, I started public service at a young age. I'm an Eagle Scout, so I've been in Boy Scouts my entire life. And what you learn to be an Eagle Scout is you learn how to become a leader. You learn how to become a doer, a shower. So, you know, the passion I have for this community is why I am taking this on. Over the last 10 years, you see population plummeting consistently in this district every year. I'm not talking it's lower now than it was 10 years ago. It's every year it's lower than the previous. Same thing with businesses. Local businesses, larger corporate businesses are leaving because there's not enough people to give them business, or there's not enough opportunities to support their business. At the same time, you have high school students. The rate of high school students graduating high school, leaving the district to go seek work and life and education somewhere else instead of the place they grew up, is increasing every single year. My goal is to use my passion, to use my experience, and use my message to help restore hope, to restore faith in this district, encouraging people to stay here, to live here, to raise a family here, to get their education here, to build a career here. That is our goal.
And I know that a lot of people, I think, have lost that sight and that trust in government over the last 2 years, especially with former Governor Andrew Cuomo and the harassment that has happened during his time in office, according to the Attorney General. For you, when talking to people as a Democrat, I imagine this district is probably difficult. Senator Borrello has won in past elections pretty strongly. What types of conversations are you having with them about trying to restore some of that faith in the Democratic Party, where maybe people aren't as trustworthy because they're still getting to know current Governor Hochul, who inherited the problems from Albany?
Absolutely, that's a really good question. And sometimes the first question people ask when we meet with them is, are you Republican or are you Democrat? The thing that I want to put forward is not to focus on what party I am, to focus on common sense solutions, working across the board. I want to reiterate that I am a working class person. I grew up, son of a single mother, grew up in low income housing, in a rural community, and I know what it's like to scrounge through the cupboards to find a meal for dinner, to live on food stamps. So I know what families are going through in this district. I've worked at places like McDonald's, I've worked at places like Crosby's, and I currently serve as a teacher, a minimum wage paid teacher at a nonprofit organization, Chautauqua Opportunities. So I know what working class people are going through. And I don't want to take this on as a politician. I want to take this on as a voice for you, the working class in Albany.
And that's been I think a heightened movement. A lot of people, they see this distrust in government, and they're looking for new answers. What types of things do you plan to bring to the table to maybe try to address, say, food insecurity that you mentioned?
The biggest thing we want to put forward is a bill that I want to call Revitalize Our Home. And essentially it's going to find funding to incentivize businesses to hire homeless people, incentivize businesses to hire students who are in high school, encouraging the state to provide funding for schools to be able to afford to send their kids to trade schools. Because as you know, trade is a marvelous field to get into, and not college isn't meant for everybody. So we want to be able to offer schools, students in junior, senior year, an ability to go to trade school, get some trade school experience, workforce ready experience in high school, as well as providing college level education in high school. That's our biggest goal.
And when looking at that collegiate and trade atmosphere, a lot of times we see this great flight where students will graduate or they'll go away to school and they never come back. Where do you think that comes from, and what responsibility do you think that lies in the Senate to try to address some of that?
Well, again, it comes back to that restoring hope. I know a lot of people seek bigger schools outside of the district, and there are some great schools we have here. SUNY Fredonia is a marvelous college to get into. JCC, again, offering trade programs like welding, things like that, is a marvelous program. And some high schools are adopting JCC college level courses in their high schools, and a lot of schools send their children to BOCES. They pay the tuition to send their students to BOCES, but again, not all schools can afford that. And I'm a firm believer that geography should not determine your level of opportunity in high school. So we need to make sure that we are incentivizing schools and putting towards funding to be able to have every single school in the district send their students to trade schools and also offer them college level education.
And I know that there are a lot of grants and things like that out there that I think help pave that way. A lot of times too, and I think you hinted on it briefly, but you have many times broken family structures across our district. You know, there's a lot of substance abuse issues that I think plagues a lot of people, and in many cases, Western New York has been forgotten. I know we've had the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, and there's been new push to try to enhance that. But from that perspective, is there anything at the state Senate level that you would try to go after to address something like the drug epidemic, where maybe we do have some of these shortfalls where up until I think earlier in March, they opened up a new treatment facility in Dunkirk. There really hasn't been an inpatient facility like that ever. What could be done? You know?
That's a really tough question.
Yeah.
That's a really tough situation, and it's crippling not only our district, but districts across the country. But it is huge in our district, and we need to realize that. A lot of things that play into it: mental health, education, family matters. But something that we could do is attack the crisis directly, track it at hand, attacking the substance. Essentially, I would like, similar to our gun stance, we'd like to get police officers out there. We'd like to get volunteers out there to open stands, no questions asked. You can turn in drugs you found on the street, bringing in illegal firearms, things like that. That is our plan at this point, to try and get drugs off the street.
And you mentioned police, and I know bail reform, and in many cases now reforming the reform is on the tops of minds of so many people as crime spikes post-pandemic here.
Absolutely.
For you, where do you stand on bail reform? And I know your opponent, Senator Borrello, has really dug his feet in saying that it needs to be repealed completely. Where are you on that? And do you think it does have to have some changes?
That's a very good question, and it's something that a lot of people are asking. It's something a lot of people are talking about. I personally believe in the idea of bail reform. The idea is great. It helps those who frequent the system, helps those who may not be able to pay criminal expenses, offers some leniency. However, the current state of the bail reform bill has a lot of loopholes, and I think Albany needs to reform the bail reform. You know, I was able to attend the Line Up for Lexi protest in Jamestown a few weeks ago to spread awareness for a young 15-year-old girl who was tragically struck and killed by a reckless semi-truck driver. That in and of itself is absolutely tragic. And I can't imagine what the family has to go through knowing that they lost their daughter, their friend, their niece in that way. But then also knowing that the guy who did it is off on bail. That has to be a second punch to the face. And these are the loopholes that we need to address. So I would be in the same realm. We need to reform the bail reform.
I know that the Senator Borrello has mentioned that he's run into some Democrats who want to get on that train of at least talking about reforming it. Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown is an example. If elected, I imagine the reforms aren't going to be done before the end of this fall. I wouldn't think so. Is that something you would want to continue in a sense then? Yes,
the bail reform is something really close dear to me. It'd be something I'd do in the first 100 days of my term, my tenure as state senator. It's something I want to take on day one. I think, and then electing me with the D next to my name does put me in the majority in Albany, and it offers me a position where we can actually significantly talk about this. I know a lot of senators, a lot of people looking from this district, from the outside in, see this as a dying district as it is. And then you have somebody leading the district that's not even close to being in a position where they can do anything. So having a Democrat in there would really help get the ball rolling on this topic.
Yeah, I know the partisan politics are really tough in Albany, and when you look at bail reform, is there a specific aspect of it that you think should be changed?
I think there needs to be a census taken on repeat offenders for sure. There are a lot of people that just keep getting handed appearance tickets. Appearance tickets are great in terms of first-time offense or low-level offenses. So we need to take a look at how many times these people are getting these tickets, but also we need to look at what level is the crime at. Running over a 15-year-old girl with a semi-truck with prior gun and drug and reckless driving charges should not be an area where you can be let off on bail. That is something that is incredibly disappointing to me on the end of the state and on the end of our criminal justice system. So those things need to be looked at, and they need to be looked at now.
And I know one other topic that I think goes hand in hand when talking about bail reform is the legalization of recreational marijuana. Medical marijuana has been legal in New York for some years now, and we had this take effect, and now the state's looking at rolling out dispensaries and grow operations and the Office of Cannabis Management. I believe just this month, just today, the governor office announced that they're going to be rolling out some of the licensing to try to be in retribution to people who were incarcerated because of low-level marijuana offenses. For you, where do you stand on the legalization process? And now it is in the executive chamber, but I know there has been talk of maybe there needs to be more regulation from that Office of Cannabis Management.
Yes. So I would agree that we do need to legalize recreational marijuana. It is proven to be less harmful than alcohol and cigarettes, and those are already sold in convenience stores. So I would not be opposed to dispensaries coming into our district. But again, alcohol is heavily regulated. Cigarettes are heavily regulated. They cost a lot. Only certain people can buy them. And I think we need to do the same thing with recreational marijuana.
Yeah, I know that the concern is a lot of times law enforcement aren't 100% trained. Maybe a few officers are. I know locally the town of Ellicott police has been pretty vocal about they're not ready to address this, and people are out there already driving high. Could there be more done in that sense to assist law enforcement, or do you feel that the state is already kind of on top of that through the Office of Cannabis Management?
I think the state is doing great jobs and doing a great job in this area. Police departments should be researching how they can handle, taking on the legalization of recreational marijuana. My hope is that it will happen. So police departments should prepare for that. I think that you have alcohol. People drive drunk. People drive, smoking cigarettes all the time. Same thing's going to happen, and it'll just be the same type of enforcement for that.
Yeah, I know the one thing that a lot of the officers complain about is the fact that they don't necessarily have that training. They want the state to do some sort of training, I think is what they're kind of dragging at it, an issue there. So that'll be certainly interesting nevertheless. The other part that I think is interesting when we look at this district, being the former 57th district, now the 58th, a legal battle underway ahead of this primary for some, and then the fall election is what Republicans are calling gerrymandering. For you, watching that district unfold, I know nevertheless it's new territory running for a Senate seat, but how has that process been in your eyes? And with that loss of population, being able to represent people, for you, where do we stand, you think, in rural Western New York?
Well, I think, like you said, the population dropping, we have to shift to that. We have to cater to, we have less people. So I think the district we have currently is a district that is very representative of who lives here. A lot of people are unhappy. I know George Borello is unhappy with the district, but I think it's great that we have some new areas to cover, some new ground to cover, and I think that spreading our message to new people and catering to our population issues is just something that was going to happen either way, and it's something we need to continue to work with.
On that front of talking with folks, have you had much time to go door to door and get connected with people? And if so, what have they said?
Absolutely. So every day I've been going to different communities across the county, across the district. I do still work currently full-time as a preschool teacher, but that I have 11 days left in that position. So there will be obviously more time to petition, but I've been trying every day to just talk with people at their doorstep, and a lot of the issues they're sharing are similar. Two questions I can think of that come up the most are you Democrat or Republican, or are you too young? And I want to address both. Real quickly, we want to focus not on whether or not I'm a Democrat or Republican, but focus on what we want to put forward. And we want to restore hope in this district. That is our main goal. So take away the D, the R next to my name. I mean, there are certain instances where it's beneficial, but that's not our primary focus. Secondly, I think my age is significant. I think it's representative. I am the future of this state. I am the future of this district. And the things that we pass now in government, the legislation that is passed now, is going to affect my generation. It's going to affect my age group. So why not get involved now?
Yeah. How old are you?
I am 20 years old.
20, wow, yeah, so that is young for a political office. And I know a lot of people, when they look towards government, my stepfather, if I take it personal for a moment, always says, whatever happens now is going to be your problem. And he's not wrong.
That's right.
He's right. Whatever decisions we make, that will be that trickle-down effect. How is it for you so young to get involved in politics? And then in a time when I think so many people in our generation want to get out of it. They don't want anything to do with it.
Well, I think that's the biggest reason why I'm doing this, is because our generation should not be scared of politics. Our generation needs to step up. This is the time. Now is your time to step up. I've faced many hurdles already so far. When I ran for school board, people thought I was too young. When I'm running now, they think I'm too young. But again, just spreading that message. We are the future. We have a voice now. And that's just what we're going to continue to do.
Yeah, yeah. And with that, you mentioned you're studying political science now. Do you think that helps with your campaign a little bit? A lot of times people are, they go into politics after running a successful business. They're in their 50s, they're in their 60s, but it almost seems like you kind of have a clean slate coming into it.
Yeah, so a degree in political science is not, a qualification necessarily to run for office, but it does give you a lot of insight on how politics works. And again, I don't want to be a politician, but it is helpful to have a sense of knowledge on how elections work, on how legislation is passed, on how your government dynamic is set up. Those are important things you need to know. And political science isn't training you to run for office. It's just educating you on the political system that we all have to endure.
And with that political system, I know in Albany, and I know we talked about this at the top of the interview, but there's been this culture of it's always been one way, and these perceived backroom deals. Going into that state house, if elected, it seems like you have that fresh attitude. How would you implement that? I imagine you'd probably have to make connections with folks to get a lay of the land, but nevertheless, you'd be entering this arena that for the last 100 years, the last 2 decades specifically, has in many cases been one way, one party rule.
Yeah, Albany is just this giant political machine, and it's always which party has the supermajority. That's what people are seeking. We need somebody who's going to go in there and work against the grain, who's not going to cater to their party, who's not going to cater to their advisors, somebody who's going to have common sense solutions to put forward, and that's what I'm going to do.
Finally, if there's one thing you want our voter to take away, our viewer to take away, would be what?
My final message would be, don't be scared to get involved. Age is not a barrier. It is a stepping stone for the future. We must take on this political machine in Albany. We must stop catering to the establishment. We need to put forward common sense solutions so that our district doesn't have to suffer anymore. We have to restore hope. If we don't restore hope and faith in this district, the trend is going to continue, whether it's been 10 years, 20, 30. It's going to continue to drop. And I also encourage people, if you're interested in our campaign, to join us. We are seeking volunteers. We are in need of volunteers. So please, if you want to be a part of this organization, seek out. Reach out to us. You can check us out at Braiden for New York 58 on social media. Our website will be up in the coming days. So please be a part of this amazing movement that we're trying to put forward.
Braiden McElhaney, thank you very much for your time today running for New York State Senate's 58th District, former 57th District this fall. And of course, election coverage always on at WNYNewsNow.com and our free mobile app, and here on Channel 716 on Rock.